Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of Missing Triggers, a Card Guys Network podcast. My name's Kyle. Nice to meet you all.
Mhm.
I'm joined with a very good friend of mine, teammate, son. There's a lot of titles for you. Introduce yourself so everybody knows who I'm with here for this amazing journey that we're gonna call the Missing Triggers podcast.
Hey, it's Sebastian Cavallo.
Ooh,
No,
hey Sebastian.
yeah, former the first ever calling American calling loser. Second second place.
Yo, that's got to be in your Twitter bio. First ever calling loser. um, so we've been we've been toying around with the idea for quite a while that we wanted to do our own podcast, and ever since I can remember, I've had this idea in the back of my mind of what we're going to do and everything, and we finally just pulled the trigger. We came up with a name. Thanks to Sebastian. We're going to get into all that today. Kind of introduce ourselves, introduce what we're about, introduce
Talk about the journey,
the journey
you
that
know.
the journey that we've been through to get to this point, and what we're our expectations for this podcast, which really are honestly not really high at all. We're just here to have fun and just shoot the shit.
Exactly.
Um, First and foremost,
Basically,
I do want to tell everybody that this podcast might not be your cup of tea. We're gonna be a little bit more unfiltered, talk our mind, and be very honest with people. We're gonna cuss a little bit, so if you have a problem with that, Rick from BCW, I'm sorry. Yep, called you out. So so yeah, just getting into it and everything. Sebastian, how did
yes.
how did we get here? How did tell me about your journey? Because if I'm not mistaken, we're recording this on the day 1 year ago where we started the Monarch pre-release. It's
Oh my
very close to
gosh.
the day, so it's been a
Yeah.
year, and
Oh, do you want to go into the flesh and blood journey or
let's
like
we can
how
get
we met?
let's fucking dude, you are smart, okay? Let's get into how you and I met, because I mean I think that's a pivotal part of what makes our relationship a little bit more dynamic than I would say other
Yeah.
people's are. I guess start us off. Tell us where you came from, and kind of how you and I were introduced to each other and everything.
So funny enough, Kyle and I actually when I was 10, 11, 12, around that age, maybe up until a little bit till 13. Kyle and I went to the same locals, but just, Kyle and I have about a 9-year age difference. So we never, interacted with each other because the locals we went to was quite big in Atlanta. We played the
Huge.
same card game. Yeah, it was a huge locals, and we played the same card game, but we never really interacted with each other. And then um, that's just a fun fact that I thought was always interesting looking back on it, that we were in the same place on Saturday, but just never knew each other. And now I moved away to a few different states for my mom's work and everything. Then eventually I landed. We were in Ocala, Florida, and then we moved back up to the Atlanta area, and I was playing Dragon Ball Super at the time, which is the newest version of the Dragon Ball card game that they have. And I basically was on Facebook, didn't ever really use Facebook, but used it for groups and stuff like that with an anime profile picture, and I was trying to find where
So
locals were. And Kyle's like, "Who is this guy? This kid with his anime profile picture?" And yeah, so I went out to their locals. um to me it was kind of an interesting moment because in Dragon Ball Super the card guys were, you would say they were known, they were definitely kind of like a little bit of like how we are in the flesh and blood community, celebrities in the community. So I thought it was very cool to meet Nam and Kyle and all these guys that I've watched videos, heard that they were doing well, and then finally get to meet them. And then one thing led to another. I kept coming out there. Then Kyle's like, "Where do you live?" I'm like, "Alpharetta, 5 minutes away from you." And he's
fucking
like,
5 minutes away, bro.
"Well, so your mom doesn't have to drive there and back," because I believe I was 17, 16 at the
Yeah,
time.
you were
He's like,
17. Yeah.
"Yeah." He's like, "I'm gonna just take you to and from places." I was like, "That's awesome." And then slowly and slowly our card trips, even to this day, just keep getting more and more interesting, and the relationship kind of just grew from that.
For
Then
sure.
getting into the Flesh and Blood topic, um, Dragon Ball Super, COVID happened. We were basically all gonna go to this big event in or Jacksonville, Florida.
I
Then
think it was
COVID happened.
I think it was Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yeah. And we basically, it was pretty crazy that we all, like, me and Kyle might have talked like once or twice, maybe 3 times a week. I think I was probably one of the few in the card game where they kept most in touch with, but we didn't see Nam for like a year. Like, it was pretty crazy. Um, he just kind of like everyone else took a break from card games, and then finally at the around this time last year, I was looking up a Flesh and Blood video. Um, I follow this one YouTuber who was talking about new card games, and you know, if you're making a card game, the Seven Deadly Sins. I forget his name off the top, but he was just talking about this game, Flesh and Blood, and I was like, that's an interesting game name. Let me look into this. And then Kyle, funny enough, texts me next day and goes, "Do you know what Flesh and Blood is?" And I'm like, "Actually, yes, I have been looking into this." And then Kyle, you can kind of take it where Alex's journey and your journey. And
So, yeah, I mean, Alex hits me up. If you guys don't know who Alex is, he's the other owner of the Card Guys. Been my friend for quite a long time. We kind of, you know, made it around like 2014, like February 2014. I want to say is when we created the Card Guys and stuff. And um, he has always been into the Pokemon collecting and higher end grading of Pokemon stuff. And um, somebody hit him up and was like, "Hey, there this new card game, Flesh and Blood. These cards are grading for, 9.5s, and they're still selling for couple $1,000." And we're like, "Whoa!" And so we looked into the game, and he was like, "Hey, let's play this." And that's literally when I hit Sebastian up, and we kind of dove in immediately. I want to say around that time, if I'm not mistaken, Sebastian, there was a calling about a couple weeks after we had got into it. One of the
it was
Auckland
the Blitz
callings.
call. Yeah, it
It
was
was
Blitz.
the Blitz one,
Was
yeah.
surprising. Yeah.
The Drone of Brutality IRA format. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
So we looked at some of the groups, and Alex and I were a little skeptical. I mean, as anybody should be with a new card game. We joined all these groups, and we're like, all right, cool. Let's see the growth of this game, right? Let's see
Yeah.
how many people that are in these groups, and let's see how many people are in these groups a month later, and then another month later, and then it kind of doubled at one point. We're like, oh shit, oh this is happening, and but about 2 weeks, a week into it, we hit this guy up that had a whole bunch of cards, and after me, Sebastian, and Alex created a Facebook chat together, us three. We were like, let's get started X and let's just learn how to play. So we went and got J Buffalo Wings. Shout out to J Buffalo Wings, the best ranch in the South. And we sat at my desk over here. We just started jamming games and learning the game, and then we ordered Mr. Beast burgers. Shout out to Mr. Beast and your burgers. Why do I remember all this? That's fucking weird. And we sat down at 12 o'clock midnight and watched about 2 or 3, 4 hours of the Auckland Calling. And then when everybody went home, we got on Discord and we still talked about it and we kept watching it. And we kind of just fell in love with like the gameplay and the aspect of just how the game played. And so, um, you know,
It was pretty crazy because we're watching this game, and Alex obviously knew the market of this game, and he's like, by the way, in these top 8 matches, like, there's this guy, and he's playing with his, I think at the first couple callings, didn't they give top 8 the gold foil tunics? So
I
there was a
I don't
couple
know.
people had,
Yeah.
or one of the people who'd won one of them was
Was
playing,
playing with it. That's right. Yeah.
and he's like, that's a $40,000 card right there, and we're like, and he's playing with it,
Like,
and like we were
excuse
just
me?
blown away. So that
Definitely.
was
That was
pretty
definitely one of the
insane.
big lures that got us into it. Was obviously with anything, like if there's some sort of return, um
Yeah,
we people are more inclined to be drawn to it and kind of figure out like, oh, how can we make money off this? But yeah, like we went on the website and Um, they started spoiling stuff for Monarch. I want to say late March, early April, right? If I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
this is a
it was actually
2021.
it's pretty funny that now LSS has changed so much with Uprising releasing it so early because I think we only got spoilers the week of the pre-release. So, and they didn't spoil
Yeah,
the whole set. So
yeah,
there was cards like we were looking at Prism and we're like this hero's broken, but there's no way to give these cards to go again. Then they teased Luminars and we're like, wow, okay, now these heralds are really good. And then we're like, well, there has to be a way to get your action point back. And they actually didn't even spoil Phantasmal Footsteps, but I believed we were in a draft pod or on Facebook or something. I mean, a sealed pod, and someone pulled it or we saw it on Facebook and we're like, and now there's a way to buy your
and
action point
here
back.
we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and then the rest is history from there. I mean, we went to shout out to Case first and
Yeah,
foremost. Fucking love Case. He's been the
he's
best for this entire year we've known him. We ended up
he's
going
definitely
to
been the best store
his.
owner.
Oh, for sure. I love Case. We went to his store for one of the pre. Well, actually, let's get into the pre-release real quick because this is kind of what sparked our drive to start doing
Yeah.
well. Just because of uh, how expensive things were at the time.
Mhm.
We ended up me, Alex, and us. We looked and saw where pre-releases were, and the two that we could find, one was in sort of South Georgia, like two and a
Very
half,
South.
3 hours, 3 hours away, and shout out to Miss Judy, and we went on a Friday night, and I was just about to start my job that Monday, the next Monday. I remember this. So we go down there and we pull some cards. We had fun. I ended up winning the Celestial Cataclysm mat, which is pretty awesome. And we noticed on Facebook that a lot of people were trying to sell their cards for stupid amount of money, and we were like, oh, well, we can just make a lot of our money back right now and make a lot of money. And so all three of us put our Ray of Hope and the other Ray card
Yeah.
together, and we sold it as a 9 card set for how much was it? Like $300 or something?
Yeah, $350 or something like that.
Yeah,
And I think the biggest shock to us about this game was that playmats were worth money, which
a
coming from
lot.
Dragon Ball Super, where if you know anything about that game, the playmats were literally being fire sold by, big vendors like,
Like Ultra Reality Games, we'll just call you out, Jim.
yeah. Yeah, all the playmats were being sold, and even the top 8 playmats weren't holding up that much value. And then you go to a pre-release and then you can win a $250, $300 playmat. It was like, whoa, you can.
Excuse me, like,
Yeah,
like
I thought it was pretty crazy. Obviously, with hobbies, you don't expect to necessarily make money, but if you can, like Kyle was saying, get your return on the investment back, and then everything, because us selling that pre-release stuff actually paid for our first decks going into the next season, which actually really helped us like continue to grow and get into the game.
yeah. Then the next day, we were like, there's one about an hour north of us. Let's go. And so we
Yeah,
all got in
let's
the
go.
car and we all drove right to Showcase Games, and where Case was obviously one of the most giving human beings I ever come across as far as like a store owner. And
Oh, for sure.
um,
I was
we
just so excited to have people playing the game, and this is one of the few games I've actually seen store owners be like, I want people in here playing this game. At the time he couldn't run armory events because of COVID restrictions, so he's like, hey, here's a couple promos, like nothing crazy, not like cold foils or anything, but just like the Voltic Bolt and things like. He's like, what heroes do you play? I'm like, I play Kano. Kyle was interested at Dash at that point, so
Mhm.
he was like, and he gave you some Dash promos, and he gave me some Voltic Bolt promos I still hold on to this day,
Yeah,
and it was just so kind, and they were worth a little bit of money back then, and I'm never gonna sell mine, but it was just like, oh, this is so kind that this guy gave us, $60 worth of promos at the time just for coming in there and talking to him
just
about
for
the game and
showing
playing
up
in
and
his.
just being
uh,
interested.
then for his pre-release, I think he was, he's like, you can pre-order a box of Monarch for near MSRP, which nobody was doing at the time. Everyone thought Monarch was going to be the next crew, and it was just so welcoming, and the community and the few people that we saw the first pre-release joined the second pre-release. Shout out to Willie B. Um,
That handsome
and
devil.
yeah, it was a handsome devil him. But going into the pre-release, right? So Kyle won the first one with Prism. I played Levy at the first one. I was like, huh, I like Shadow Heroes because like if anyone see me in real life, I'm pretty much always in black, usually with black painted nails. I will at the Pro Tour have some painted nails, for sure. I'm into a lot of alternative and emo music and things like that. So the Shadow stuff and coming from all these anime card games and card games where they really couldn't get into the gory side of things, to see these chain cards and these Leviat cards where people are being speared, like
Very
guts out
gory.
everywhere,
It's
very
awesome.
gory. And I know there was some people who didn't like it, but I personally loved it, that they weren't afraid to be like, we know card games, main people who play card games are going to be teenagers and young adults and older people. So why not make a game that's catered towards that audience? And with the game design and also with the art style, it's so effective and so beautiful, just the whole thing. So I played Levia, didn't do that well with it. I think I went like 2-2. And I was like these shadow cards. Throughout my card playing career, career basically, I didn't consider it a career at that time, but throughout my card playing history, I played Light Sworns in Yu-Gi-Oh, Chaos Light Sworn, so obviously with the banish, with
The
the
whole
graveyard,
milling and banishing
the
and all
whole
this other
milling
stuff.
thing. And in Dragon Ball, I played uh a lot of black decks, which were like Demigro, which was an aggro deck. Played Toa, and
A lot of banishing effects and all that stuff. Yeah.
a lot of banishing effects. And then into this game, I read Chain, and I'm like, oh, this guy, he has Go Again on the hero ability. You banish cards that can be played. I'm like, this is right up my alley. Levia wasn't that good. Oh, this hero seems very, very good. So we got our draft pool. We played the day, and Kyle and I ended up in the finals, and then we both won the event
Yeah, we got
because
first and second because we were
second
I
was
was
playing
playing the
Prism
Prism
again.
and you were doing the chain deck, and so we both got the two play mats. And then shout out to Mr. Chuck. He offered us 400 for, I think it was something like that, for both of them.
It was 250 each on the spot.
Yep. And so we were like, okay. And then right after that, we sold a lot of Almar Majestics for like $40-$50 each, and the foils for a little more, and thus created the monsters that were us. So we're like, oh, money, we can make money on this game. And so yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, after speaking about it for roughly 20 minutes, that you kind of get a gist of why we got hooked on this game to begin with, and why we become slightly a bit passionate about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a content creator standpoint, I've been doing this for a while, and there was not a lot of people doing it, and I'm like, wow, we have somewhat of a platform that we can start growing on, even more than what we already have. And it's been pretty neat so far, to say the least, to see the growth we've made as individuals in this game, and also the growth that our brand has made. And I mean, obviously, that has a lot to do with how you and Nam have performed at the first few callings. So I'm very appreciative of that. But let's get into a few of the topics now. Now that you guys know a little bit about us and what we're about and kind of how we got involved, want to kind of go over a few things. Obviously, Pro Tour New Jersey is this coming up week, this
my
coming
goodness.
up weekend. So
I don't know about you, Kyle, but
yeah.
I'm just so excited for an event because coming off of Indy, I would say Indy was the first calling I've ever went to where the everyone was not everyone was disgruntled at that calling.
Yeah.
That was the first calling I went to where every single person I talked to was like, "Yeah, I'm not happy with the format. I'm not happy with the game right now. It needs to change." The Starvo players, I think, legitimately, the only people who left Indy happy were the person who won the battle hardened, and then the top 8.
Yeah.
Those were the only people who left that tournament happy. I'm sure if you were just there for fun and side events, yeah, you left there happy, and everyone has a good experience about every single event. So not trashing on that calling or anything. It was overall fun. But going into that, now going into the pro tour where everyone's so excited about, not knowing what the meta is, these new decks that, these rogue decks that people might bring, even though we think Chain's the best deck. Daylon Mack actually tweeted a really interesting tweet today where he was like, Chain's the best deck, but I don't think most of the elite players are going to be on it. Why do you think that? And we could go into my whole reasoning on that.
Jesus, we could
But
talk about that for like 5 hours,
oh my
honestly.
goodness, yeah.
The
But
conversations we've had over the last few weeks have been.
they have been pretty crazy. So yeah, just overall, I'm super happy to go into this pro tour and be a part of the history of the first pro tour and hopefully do well.
Yeah. I and before we get into anything else, that was one thing that Alex, you, and myself made it a point to do. We were like, we love this game. Like we see this game doing well. If they ever create like a professional scene for it, we want to say that us three competed in that first one, and that was something since us three started and actually sat down and learned the game and questioned people and just tried to achieve something that we didn't even know was going to happen, and then they announced it, and you and Alec, or you obviously just qualified just because you're a top 100 XP, boomer XP, I guess is what you could call it, kind of. And then Alex not kind of had to grind for it, but at the end of Indy, to say that us three fucking did it, like it kind of told me that and as fucking cliche and stupid and like cheesy as it sounds, like if you set your mind to something, you can achieve it. And I mean, there were some struggles that went along with transitioning from Blitz to CC, and
oh my goodness,
they banned Seeds of Agony, and just there's certain things that happened that kind of gave you obvious bumps in the road. But to say at the end of the day, call me flu game Jordan from '96, like at the end of Indy, I felt so accomplished, even though I was sick as a dog.
Oh, we were. Jeez.
That was the
Sorry
worst.
to everyone had to interact with us
that
weekend.
It was awful. But
no, it was bad. I didn't have the strength to paint my nails.
So, God damn it. So we get back on Monday, and Monday's the last day, and we finally found out that all six of us from the team qualified. But at the same time, the three originators that wanted to play this game, we did it, and that was the coolest shit to me. That we have
to make this known that when we first went into this game, Kyle, I, and Alex, like, we didn't know if we were gonna be good at this game, but we kind of coming especially from me, Kyle and Alex a little bit more. They were seasoned card players, obviously having 9 more years of life experience than me. Sure. It was pretty, I would say, trash at the other games I played, but I was picking up things slowly, learning more and more stuff, and that's kind of like, I was discussing this with another friend, and he was going into why people said to him he was doing pretty well in the Magic scene locally, and he was like, oh, people come up to me and are like, why are you top 8ing everything? Why can't I get there? And he's like, well, I've been going at it for 5-6 years, and now I'm finally seeing results. And I think that's one of the big things. I know I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but pushing yourself and seeing results, and it's going to take a while, so just keep grinding it out.
For sure. Literally, don't get discouraged. Just keep your head. I tell Sebastian this all the time, and this goes to anybody that is struggling or wanting to start, playing competitively. study
Especially if this
people.
is your first card game.
Yeah, and that's true for a lot of people, which is really weird to me. That people, this is their first card game they ever consider playing is Flesh and Blood, right? It's just like, I don't know, mind blowing. But and I over the past year, hell, even before then, when we played Dragon Ball Super together, you could see Sebastian was 17, and you were very impressionable for a 17-year-old. And I could tell at that age, how you were perceiving things, how you were picking things up, how you were adapting a lot of your stuff that you were doing from stuff you saw other people doing and over time you started forming these your own opinions, and you started forming your own play style, and it was deriving from all these other things you were studying. And at that point I knew that you were going to be a a very good card player. Obviously, you just needed the time. When I was 17 years old, I didn't fucking know what I was doing. Granted, I mean, like, when I think it was like '06, I qualified for nationals in Yu-Gi-Oh when I was like 14 years old.
Yeah,
Or 12 years, well, I forget. 12, 13,
that's a
14 years
pretty good
old.
achievement.
I mean, it was, but like I didn't know what I was doing. I just net decked someone, and I just fucking went and did things, and the deck was too good. So like obviously I did well, but I could tell that you weren't trying to play the best deck at that point, and you
Yeah,
were just learning. And it all comes with the trials and tribulations of learning the game, and un- understand just having a little more complex understanding of certain things is what made you grow as a player. And I think that's kind of why you saw that success at Las Vegas, is because there comes a point in time in like a card player's life, in a card playing terms, where shit just clicks. Like
yeah,
you're struggling, you're kind of getting there, and then all of a sudden you play in one tournament and it fucking just clicks, and you just start steamrolling people, and you're like, I get it now. And it like heaven opens up, and then
yeah.
you're introduced to like so many more things just because of that one understanding and that one thing, and it just all the puzzle just is complete. And my one big piece of advice is just to study other players, whether it
Exactly.
be in any card game.
And just play test. Honestly, I think that was half of it right there. Is just getting in as many games as possible, because if you know every other competitive player is going to be playing 10, 20 games a day, like you hear Tariq Patel and these other very, very prevalent competitive players in the community say, Matt Rogers, this kind of thing. They're saying they're playing this many games a day. If you're playing one game a day, you are effectively living in the past, because when they're having revelations about the meta, they're having those 10 times faster than you, because they're testing, so far ahead of anything you're doing at the
Oh yeah,
time. But
for
yeah,
sure.
we kind of got off topic here, so we
I mean,
can.
that's just gonna happen. People are just gonna have to deal with that. We're literally just going to be off
Start.
topic a lot of times, and that's just how it's gonna be. So you and I always get sidetracked a lot, but I mean that's just a part of who you and I are.
Yeah,
So you know what? I'm scratching one of these topics because fuck that topic. Um, so before we talk about Pro Tour and talk about expectations, um, so if you guys didn't know, I did briefly mention it in the I did mention it briefly in the in the introduction. Um, Sebastian and I are part of the Card Guys, and we have our own Patreon, and we do stuff with our Patreon. And one thing we asked a lot of the people on our Patreon to do is to ask us questions for the podcast. And we've had a few of our patrons go forth and ask us some pretty neat questions, and we're gonna kind of go down the list and just talk about them. And maybe another conversation sparks from a some sort of question, and we'll just free wing it and go from there. So first and foremost, Cody Steenmeyer, shout out to you, buddy. He's one of our local players.
yes.
We appreciate this question because it's something that's been brought up quite a few times
Oh my
with me
goodness.
over the years. It says, are there any little superstitions about big events? Do you eat a certain thing, or do you have like a lucky ritual? Um, And I'll let you answer that first if you have anything in particular, Sebastian, that you have.
So, a lot of people obviously wouldn't know me personally, but personally, I do believe that every person has power in their life in the universe to kind of make things happen to them and make the universe bend to you if you put a forth enough energy out there and kind of like enough positive thoughts in a way. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but the people who, you know, it's kind of a spiritual thing where like, people who pray before a match, people who, you know, have that motivation to, say, I'm going to win this event. I'm going to win this event. Funny enough, for Las Vegas,
That's exactly what I was
I
going
would,
to.
well, before Las Vegas, we can get into this. I had like a lucky rock, and I was like, yeah. My girlfriend was like, yeah, here you go. Here's this lucky rock. It's like amethyst or whatever. She's like, keep it on you. It might bring you some good luck.
You won
I
two
won a skirmish.
RTNs with that damn rock.
I won a skirmish, and then I won the what's it called, the RTN, and then on the third RTN, I was like, he forgot about the rock, and then I pull out the rock, slam it on the table. I'm like, it was the rock, dude. Uh,
Damn rock.
I believe also I won the show. I don't know. I won a couple events with that rock, and it
Yeah.
might have had nothing to do with the rock, but
Still
I
though.
think it's kind of like that mindset and that positive energy of like I'm gonna make this happen. And for Vegas, there was up and going from 3 months before the event when we knew about it. I was putting it in my mind, putting it
Every
out in the
single day.
universe every single day that I'm like, I'm going to go home with a gold foil. I'm going to win that trophy. I'm going to we're gonna get this W. And I don't and obviously I didn't get there. Whether it be like inexperience as a player, fate didn't want me to have it. Who cares? I didn't get there, but I think if I didn't put forth that effort of saying that every day and like that energy towards it, I wouldn't have made it to the finals.
You literally every single day when we'd be in the car traveling to a local or whatever, you'd be in the back seat, you'd get in the middle, and you'd pop your head through the front, and you look at us, and you'd be like, "Look at us, motherfuckers!" And we're like, "What? One of us is coming home with a gold foil," and I'm like, "Yeah." And you're like, "It's gonna be me." And you'd say that every single time, and the funny part is obviously you had such a good like RTN season, but people started
Yeah.
believing you because you were being so positive and putting that affirmation out in the world that like I'm
Yeah.
going to do well, I'm going to do well. And even when you lost your first round at Las Vegas, you were tilted,
It
don't
was
get me wrong.
round 3. Yeah, yeah,
Round
no, and
3,
that's gonna be one of the questions.
that's
Yeah.
actually our very next question that we're one of our next questions we're going to talk about. You literally you were pissed off for a second, and I pulled you to the side. I was like, hey, just remember what your goal is. You're not gonna be perfect, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't expect to go into a high level tournament and expect to just not lose. That's
Exactly.
silly. That's fucking stupid. And you just need to keep your head down because I mean you have room, you have wiggle room, and
Yeah.
you know
And that
and
was the wiggle room because I made a rookie mistake. It was with Nebula Blade. I didn't play my non-attack action before I attacked.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm like, all right, because I was gonna go Seeds of Agony, Nebula Blade, Rift Bind to finish it off. That way, if he let the rune chant hit, it would trigger. But I forgot to play out my Seeds of Agony, and I went in for the Nebula Blade, kind of pushed it up, and I was like, like when you're at a high level tournament, if you make them, even if you're midway making the mistake, once you like take your hand off the card, even if you, as it's coming off, you realize that you just have to respect it and be like, that's what I made, even though it's a mistake. Don't ask,
Mm-hmm.
don't ask for take backsies.
We'll get into that in a little bit too.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Um, and I lost because pushing extra 3 damage in the rune chant, he was able to block equipment instead of a card in equipment, and came back with a pretty powerful turn. It was a prism, aggro prism into me, and I was like, I can't believe I just lost to this. Um,
You were
and
upset, but you know.
I was upset.
But you learned
And
from that. Like you really did learn
yeah,
from that. And That was
We
what
did.
that was technically your second like premiere-esque event. Like you played in one in Dragon Ball Super, but like we kind of don't count that because you were still kind of new to everything and you just wanted to go just for like the
Okay.
practice. So
Yeah, I was new to everything. What wasn't on that competitive player mindset yet. I was playing a rogue deck, and then they released an expansion set right before the event came out, and the 3 out of the 4 decks that they released completely destroyed my rogue deck. So you
yep,
know what?
it'd be like that.
It'd be like that sometimes.
As for me,
Shout out Surge
go
Coup.
ahead. Go ahead.
I said shout out Surge Coup.
Yeah, shout out Surge. Jesus. For me, any superstitions? Do you like eat a certain thing or have like a lucky ritual? Not really. One thing I do like to listen to is music before an event to kind of get you in the mindset. Something that
I think
either
we shared that on.
yeah. I mean, before events, I guess like hearing a certain song. When back in the Yu-Gi-Oh days, shout out to Demarie. I freaking miss that dude. Um, we would have a song that we would play when driving up to an event, and when we would drive in front of the building. It's actually the one in Kissimmee, Florida, that we actually played that DBS tournament, that venue. Every
Yeah.
time we had to go to that tournament, we would blast this one song full volume with all the windows down, and everybody just be like jumping up and down and going crazy, and people are like, what the hell are they doing? But like it got us in that mindset, right? Like it got us ready. Instead of like going in with the nerves of like, wow, I had 3 weeks to play test for this tournament, it shot the nerves at that point, right? And it kind of got you in sort of a pseudo um way of thinking. And
Yeah.
coming from like a sports background, it kind of, yeah, I don't know, it kind of lets you know that fuck me, I'm ready. Like it's happening. This is it's going in right now, and I'm about to make everybody my prisoner. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of how it is. And like we'd listen to some really hardcore screamo music and just kind of some angry shit to get the anger out, but
Yeah.
get you there, and we do that to this day with a few different songs. Shout out to Gasoline by I Prevail.
Shout out to Second Suck.
Yeah,
I didn't
second.
realize how. Call
That
me
really
Silver Surfer.
is. Yeah, Silver Surfer. That's it. Um, but yeah, so I guess just really music. And and I know we'll talk more about like tournament preparation stuff in this podcast and just some random stuff. So, we'll definitely come back up to that topic and talk about our tournament experiences and whatnot. We have another question actually from a good friend of ours. Shout out to Justin Evans. You have been a treat in this Flesh and Blood community. We appreciate everything, all the kind words you've said. First and foremost, before we get into the tilt question, he asked, "Why are y'all so nice?" And I know exactly what he's referring to. I believe. I make it a big point. When we first off, when we started this community, we tried to, we made a Facebook page for it, and
Yeah.
we just tried to
The
get
Georgia group and everything.
yeah, and so we just tried to get little by little in in the community, and we tried to create somewhat of a healthy community. And I know a lot of times with a lot of different groups I've felt excluded, and I feel like a lot of people have this small ego about them. And one thing that I've tried to instill, and even Sebastian, obviously you're at a younger age, and even to a lot of our other friends, I always try to end off like a night of locals with like a hug and be like, "It's nice seeing you." I always want to make sure that
Exactly.
there is that stigma for us is, give me a hug. And a lot of people
Yeah.
are taken off guard by that. But we legitimately at Indy, we hugged after like almost every round. Like, dude, fucking good shit. Shout out to Justin. He got 11th at Indy, working his butt off playing Viserai, and we couldn't be so much happier for him. But one
Coming
thing,
in with an interesting Viscerai deck that even we were like, we don't know if that's gonna work, but
it
he
worked for him.
he did it himself. Yeah.
Yep. But like obviously, somebody commented to me, why are you guys hugging? But like, dude, I love my community, and
Yeah.
it's what makes us us. And as much as we've made them better players, they've made us better people and better players. And we just try to keep a very tight knit
Yeah.
community. If you see us hugging, like we love that person we're hugging. We legitimately love our community, and
It's
so
all the homo.
fuck it, they're the homies, bro. Like it's just how
No,
it
I said
is.
no. I said hugging with all the homo.
Oh, exactly. Just fucking just do it. I mean, I sat there and I give them a big hug. I whisper in their ear. Like I did that with you at one point for Vegas. I gave you a hug. I'm like, dude, just remember, you got the biggest cock in the room. Like, don't let, and like that's kind of the affirmation thing. Again, I'm raunchy when I talk, so like if you don't like it, I fucking apologize. But like when Sebastian was down after like a certain match, I gave him a hug. I whispered in his ear. I'm like, dude, you just got the biggest fucking cock in the room. You just have to go in there with the huge Chad mentality of like I am the better player here. And if you don't have that mentality, like obviously your your mindset's not going to be in the correct place going into the tournament or going into a round or
Exactly.
whatever. And so like any choice of words, just let them know that you're the best, even if they're not the best. If they go into that match saying like you're the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, then they have that extra oomph in their mentality when they're playing. They come off as more intimidating to the players sometimes, which is also another factor we'll get into another day.
And
But
and talking about that is
mhm.
when people are playing against high level players, you have to remember at the end of the day, you know, high level players they can lose too. I've lost, Kyle's lost, everyone on our team's lost. Obviously we have not top 8 and won every single calling that's been there in existence. And just because you play against Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers, Brennan anyone, name them, Rick from BCW, any of these high level players, um, you can you can just go into the match, just play flesh and blood. Just play to your best ability. Don't don't get sorry, get discouraged by anything. I was trying not to laugh at something that went through my mind
Yeah,
right there.
I can imagine. We'll save that one for a rainy day. God damn it.
all
Um,
all of those high level players I mentioned. Yeah, no, that's it.
that's
Kyle
my
gets the
statement.
joke. Oh, Kyle
Okay,
gets the joke.
so let's get into the next question. Justin also asks, how do you stay off tilt? Um, and that's a weird question, right? Like, obviously, like it's hard not to, especially when you have stuff that kind of just seems out of your control. When you lose, I think Sebastian and I both have a story from Orlando weekend that we can talk about where we lost and we wanted to fucking put our hand through a wall,
Oh
or
yeah.
our head through a wall, or just kick something. Like there's just sometimes where it's kind of unavoidable. But I guess to
So
my big question, it goes back to the superstitions. Bring a pack some headphones with you. If you're mad, just listen to some music and just try to decompress from that match and kind
or
of
double down on being mad and just come into the next round. Like th- I've done that before,
Yeah, I
where
know you have.
in one of my matches, uh, in a sealed calling, I took a draw, and it was one of those situations. It was one of those situations where I was playing Oldham, and the person had no deck, one card left in hand, coming in for lethal. They decide to block with their last card, and messed up both of our records. And the first time it happened to me was just because the guy was new and they didn't explain how draws worked, and I don't blame him. But there was the next tournament where the sealed one where he knew exactly what he was doing and he took way too long to think about his blocks and his plays, and I called the judge on him, and it wasn't enough, and I got a time extension and it still wasn't enough, still slow played. And then throughout the rest of the tournament I told my opponent straight up, I'm like, I need you to play fast. I'm going to be, and that's because going back to the why you're so nice question, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and I try not to make a bad tournament experience for people. And I hate, you know, um, calling the judge on people and things like that. But I throughout the rest of the tournament, you kind of sometimes you have to double down. I was just like, if
Gotta
you
do what you
take
gotta
more
do.
than 8 seconds, I'm calling the judge on you. And I had no more draws. Actually, all my games ended super quick after I did that. And sometimes you just have to, if something happens, don't double down on the rage like that, but just come into there like, hey, I'm ready to play. We're gonna play efficiently, and I'm ready to get this. And you can let your opponent know too.
Yeah. I have a story about tilting real quick. So Nationals round 13. So we all decided, awful call, but we all decided to pivot to Briar last moment, the week of the event, and get to round 13 against a Bolton player. Super nice-ish guy. I mean, he had a slight attitude at the beginning of the game, and I guess this can go into the Eric Bird question technically, but so he was just upset because he had been playing Briar all day, which obviously it's not the greatest thing you want to do with your time, especially if it's, what was it, 50% of the field, like something absolutely fucking absurd. And of course he was not very happy to sit down in front of another Briar player. And I got him all the way down to 1 life. And I decided with my E-Strike I was going to draw a card, and I needed to see. I had one other card in hand. I needed to see a non-attack to play just so I could Rosetta Thorn for game. And I drew attacks like 3 turns in a row. Got him to 1, couldn't kill him. He proceeds to play Bolt of Courage, and he draws his card, and he draws a Celestial Cataclysm, and he goes double Lumina into combo. And to my knowledge, and I've played it back with Josh a couple times, I blocked correctly, given the situation, and he hit me with exact at 40 life when I couldn't kill him at lethal, and he ended it with a Celestial Cataclysm for exact game through all my blocks, and I was highly upset. And so obviously if you're in round 13 out of, what was it, like 16 rounds of Nationals, after playing for Friday and all day Saturday for that to happen, I was absolutely fucking tilted. So I dropped and didn't play another game for like a month. What's that?
It's an understandably.
Yeah. And I know you had like kind of almost like the exact same thing at Orlando, where you couldn't find a non-attack action and you lost.
I think I might have a story at every single calling. So first calling, so Vegas lost that round 3, got tilted. Kyle told me best advice he's ever told me: just win your next one. Just win your next game. He's like, don't worry about the whole tournament. Just win your next game.
Got to win one more in a row 7 times or something like that is what I said.
And then the next round, I go up to him, I talk, and he goes, all right, just win your next one. And then every round I came back to him, and he just said the same thing: just win your next one. And then before you know it, X1. After the whole tournament. Well, I think day 2 was the hardest part.
Sure.
At the end of day 2, I was X1, and then I finally got into the chain matches, which is what we tech the deck for. So the hard part was over at that point. So I didn't have to come back to him. He was just excited that I was doing well. That's how you have to take it. You have to just go win your next game one more time. Don't think about the whole tournament. Just keep it game by game. Focus on that, because that's the most important thing you can do, because so many people, they get tilted because they're like, oh, I'm X2. If I lose one more, I'm out of the tournament. It's like, don't think about the whole tournament. Just think about winning your next one, because you can still top. You can still top 8. Just keep positive.
Keep your head down, and then, you just got to simplify things. Was my thing. It's just
exactly.
Like, if you think about the big picture, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to get tilted, and you're going to think there's no way out of your tilt, and it's just going to be all downhill. So I might need to take my own freaking advice here, but like that's just what it is. Just simplify it and just kind of have an open mind, but just be like, hey, I got one I got to do. I have one thing I have to do in front of me, and that's to beat the person who's in front of me right now. And then don't think about anything in the future. Don't think about that round you lost in round 3. Just chill out and do your thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
And next calling is Dallas. Played Fatigue Oldham.
Shout out
Round
to Willie
2
B.
got an unfortunate draw. Round 3 or 4 it was gonna be a draw. I could have played out and won, but I ended up just blocking to a point where I'm like, I believe the last card my opponent has is a blue lightning press, but if I block the extra card to play around it, yes, he will have no cards left because it was in his arsenal. He had one card in hand. Um, I can keep doing that, but this is his like last attack here that he was throwing at me. I'm like, I know that's a blue lightning press, but I'm just gonna let him kill me with it because I'm not going because it was like I could either hammer for 4 with my last card, or if I overblocked, but he was at 5 or 6 life, so it wasn't enough to kill him. So I had to keep one extra card to present an attack. So I'm like, I'm not gonna take another draw. He was a very nice person too. So I'm like, yeah, but just gonna take my L. Uh, then I ended up not making top 64 because of the draw I had because I was X1 and 1. The next calling took another draw, made it to top 64 because they added the extra round. Took a
Because of
loss in the
because of
draft.
that because of the last two callings.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they had to extend the round, which
exactly.
we were very appreciative of.
Very, very happy of, especially in field deck where there's a lot of variables and things like that. If
Mm-hmm.
you go X2, you deserve it.
Yeah,
Like honestly,
for sure.
um, lost one the draft portions, got 33rd. So I was like, man, there's that draw again. That ruined my record. And then going into nationals, he switch off a chain to get absolutely destroyed in the Briar I 3-0 my draft pod, played Tariq Patel, and I feel like that's one of the first games in Flesh and Blood where it was like I wasn't even playing. Like he wiped the floor with me because he was on his new Briar deck. I was playing the updated Matthew Folks list, but he had a month of testing against that already. So he just wiped the floor with me, and then it was like an awful run at nationals because I switched off a chain
Mm-hmm.
because I was afraid of Guardian, and his bitch ass,
Thanks, Nom.
beating us. Yeah, he beat me 0-9 up until I was 0-9 the last day we played against his Bravo deck. So I was like, I can't bring this if I expect to see Bravo. And didn't see a Bravo. Spoiler alert. Next day played the Orlando Calling, and I did well. I went X1. I made it to day 2. First round of day 2, playing against someone. Game state was they're at low life. I drew double Art of War. I had loaded Blood Debt non-attack action. I had a loaded Blood Debt zone. I was ready to go off. Ended up not being able to draw the non-attack to play it off. I made the calculated risk, so I draw a 4-card hand with a Blood Debt, a blue, Art of War. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't have the non-attack yet. I'm gonna banish this Ghostly Visit, search for that non-attack. Didn't get the non-attack. Got another Blood Debt, another Art of War. I'm like, oh, play out the Ghostly Visit +1. Cool. And then I'm like, calculated risk. Play out this next Art of War. I've drawn 8 cards. I mean, I've drawn 6 cards so far.
No
Yeah, I'm like,
non-attack. Yep.
no non-attack, make the calculated risk, no non-attack, lose the game because of that. He was at like 10, 15 life, I believe, and no arsenal, and this was against a fatigue deck. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got this in the bag. If this double Art of War turn goes off here, and I'm able to do, I've already played a Ghostly Visit into Spellbound Creepers, into boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? So then I'm like, okay, I'm X2, just win one more. And then in the next round, play against a Briar, and it's turn 2, and I banish a Bounding, and I have a Bounding, Art of War, Blue, and E-Strike in my hand. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
is this really about to happen twice in a row? And by the way, my ratios were 20 non-attack actions at the time, so this was pretty uncanny. Do the same play, no non-attack. Die because I have ended up losing because my 5 attack turn turned into a 2 attack turn. So I went Art of War, no non-attack. Then I even went E-Strike, draw a card from the Art of War, go again, still no card. I'm like, I can't believe that just happened twice. So yeah, tilted.
Yep.
I I, I just went 10
That's
minutes
just.
into my calling
I
by
mean,
calling.
that's
Then
just
at
how it is
Indy,
sometimes.
ever had someone awakening pulverize you into the fused Oakenold?
Yeah. That's how I lost my round
They
1 of the
go,
Battle Hardened, except they did it
Arvo.
double
I'm
fuse
saying
Oak and Old.
I'm saying on the same turn.
Oh. Oh,
I'm
on the
saying
same turn?
reveal
Jesus Christ.
I'm saying reveal Starvo ability with the Pulse of Eisenloft, play Pulverize, 16 Dominate Go again into Oakenold fuse with Pulse of Eisenloft. That's what happened to me. That's how I lost my the last round to make myself X3, and I'm like, oh, not, not having fun here.
um,
Anyway, yeah, can go
Eric
into the next
Eric
question.
Bird, good friend, good local guy. Become a very good friend of ours. Um, he asked, "What's the worst player you've ever had to play in a tournament? Or like your worst experience?" Um, I can say it's not a worst experience, but to me it made it a bad experience for my opponent. And it's just something that has always stuck with me, and I laugh about it now because like I was young. It was in 2010, so I was actually 17 years old in this tournament. In 2010 I played a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And again, like I'm saying, I was the person who I feel like made this bad who made this bad experience for this player. Um and I laugh at it, and I don't want people just to be like, what an asshole. But I sat down at like table 14 or something. It was like round 5 or 6 of a Yu-Gi-Oh YCS, and this guy shows up, and he's got a stool on his shoulder and a backpack.
Oh my goodness.
And I have to say it because like it when I look back at it, it's funny, but like I've talked to him since that, a couple years later, and he laughed too. He's like, I get it. He goes, it happens all the time. So I'm very appreciative that he didn't take it like super, super bad. But at the time, I felt so bad. Like I felt really bad. But y'all, he didn't have arms, and so I mean, it's funny,
story,
huh?
but I'm glad you're telling. I forgot about the story, but I'm glad you're telling it.
And he had no arms, and so he would ask me to either shuffle his deck for him or whatever else. At the beginning, I used to always try to be very nice to everyone, and I still do this to this day. I introduce myself, ask people where they're from, and we'll get into that in another podcast about how proper player etiquette and stuff. But I always extend my hand
Oh my
and
goodness.
be like, "Hey, I'm Kyle. It's nice to meet you." And he gives me this weird blank stare for a second. And I go, oh, fuck.
And then you
I'm
realize,
so fucking sorry, dude. I
oh my
am
goodness.
so sorry. Like, fucker has no hands. He has no arms. He can't shake my hand. So at the entire time, I'm just I'm on self tilt at this point because I fucked up so hard, right? And so this entire time, I'm just thinking like, why the fuck did I just extend my hand for a handshake when I know he can't do that? And so at the end of it, I forgot what I said to him, but at the end of it, I tried to do it again. And
Just double down.
huh?
Said you double down.
I doubled down. You're right. I really did. And I kind of saw he kind of got a little pissed at the time because of it, and the rest of my tournament was all downhill after that. And so, yeah, I was the bad guy in that guy's story, for sure. Anything with you, Sebastian? Somebody was mean to you by any chance, or just an asshole? I have one that I think I could say for you. I won't say his name, but he knows he's an asshole for it. If you want me to say it.
Go ahead, because I'm drawing a blank.
So,
I think the only
so in the Calling Vegas, you lost round 3 to the player, and he said, "Thanks for the easy game." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that's the reason you were as tilted as you were. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but he is currently on Team Kitchen Fable. That's all we're going to say. But somebody, and I heard it. I overheard
gonna
this
mention
being said. I'll say it. I don't give a shit.
Not gonna mention it, but yeah, that was one of the, because like I lost to my own misplay, and then to have that happen, I'm like, You know what? That did it for me.
And and all I can say to people is don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that is just an asshole. And of course, you're always gonna, um, encounter some people like that. But when they're just being totally rude to you after you just misplayed and lost the game, don't sit there and be like, "Thanks for the easy game, bro," and just pack your shit up and leave and just be an asshole. You know. So that's the one that actually tilted me. Knowing and hearing him say those
Tilted
words.
you for me.
Yeah, I said it for
Yeah.
you because and 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 this comes without saying. If anybody is ever like rude to any of you guys by any means necessary, I'm always going to defend you guys because obviously you guys are my friends and that's just how it's going to be. But that shit like that's just uncalled for, right? Is
It
the
is.
negativity back and forth and just stuff you just I don't appreciate. So I know that's the one that's always stuck out to me ever since you've said it. But is there any other thing that you've encountered that you're like, really, or just had a
It
bad
was just
interaction?
it was just at Cincinnati and getting that one draw from that one guy that I had to call the judge on because he was slow playing so bad. And I talked to the judge after the fact. I'm like, hey, I got slow play this whole game. Is there anything I can do about it? And he was like, no. And the guy was like, he was obviously upset. He's like, that's not slow play. It's like when you take 4 minutes to, I'm not sorry. If you take legitimately on the clock 1 minute to think about your block on a hammer for four when you're at 16 life, and then take another 2 minutes to think on your turn, you're slow playing.
Mm-hmm.
That is what. And
Agree.
then he proceeded to draw his Briar mirror match the next round too, and I felt so bad. I'm like, that guy just got his record messed up too,
Yep.
you know, because that guy had the same record as me at that point. That means he was X X 1-1, and he could have still got there
Could have
if he
still made
didn't
this
slow
the
play.
next step of the
Yeah,
tournament.
if he didn't get slow played in the next round. So I was just like, I can't believe that that just happened to me, and
Yep. For sure.
that was about it.
For sure. Now we're
Otherwise, this community is really great, and all my tournament experiences have been positive.
I've met so many neat people in this game though.
Oh,
It's
for
so
sure.
positive compared to all the other games we've played. Honestly, fuck you, Gia. And I think a lot of other people agree with that statement too. Um, let's go with one more question here. One of our patrons over on the Card Guys Patreon, Cybrin, he asked us. I'm gonna read these. We've kind of talked about a couple of these. Do you have any tricks you use to not forget triggers, or on something like Tunic? Any tips to keep your head calm while you're in a game? Obviously, if you miss something too. Sometimes, and for sure, I have to play on when I have to play on stream. I feel nervous, and it kind of takes over him, and he misplays a lot. So what's or okay, hold on. Or so he's pretty much saying like, how do you keep a level head in a match when you misplay or when you like
Yeah,
miss a
and
trigger or any of that? If you want to
I
talk
would
about that.
say the best thing to do is if you miss the trigger, just go, no, I'm not gonna miss it again. And that means you have to put your hand down after your opponent's like, I'm gonna end my turn, or like, put your hand down on the table and away from your arsenal. Obviously, that's another thing. Don't do that. I've seen
Shadow
so many
chase.
people do that. Put your hand down and just before your turn starts, just take a second and be like, what am I doing on my turn? Because before you play your card or something else popped or anything like that, you have a second to just be like, let me think about my turn. What am I doing? Um, you have a second just to be like, Tunic, cool. Now let me go. So if you miss it, just like keep in mind, don't miss it again. I think that's better than trying to lay your hand on your Tunic. Put a giant dice on your Tunic, things like that. I think it's just best way to do it is just keep a level head. And tips for keeping a level head is just like take think of every game, even if it's at a big event like it's a locals, right? And this is something Kyle told me that you just gotta act like even if you're playing against the big dogs, you just gotta pretend like this is a local tournament. There is stuff on the line, but not to say that you have to play like there is nothing on the line.
It's all
But
about your
just
mindset.
play, yeah, it's all about your mindset. Just play like you would any other game of Flesh and Blood. If this was, Matt Rogers or
Or
somebody
Ben
that you,
Norwood. Shout out
yeah,
to Ben. I love
exactly.
Ben.
Do love Ben.
I agree. I mean, that's just something that just comes with time playing. Even if you're in front of a camera. I remember the first time I played on a feature match in a premiere event, and that's on YouTube. If you guys want to go see that, shout out to me. So it's just something that just comes with time. You're gonna be nervous, right? Like that's a part of it. Obviously, you're going. Most people go to play because they want to do well, and if it finally clicks and you start doing well, you're eventually going to be on camera if you keep doing well. So it's just about popping your cherry. It's about just having it happen once or twice.
Exactly.
If you misplay, you fucking misplay. Like that's just a part of it. Like I've done that on camera. I misplayed so bad, bro. In the top 16 of an ARG tournament, it was absurd. It was legitimately my tournament to win, and I punted so hard, and yeah, I learned from that. And that, again, like I said, that's just something that just comes with time and comes with experience playing on camera or any of that. So as far
And
as like when you misplay or like you miss a trigger or something, um, that's just that's name of the podcast, Missing Triggers. We'll get into why we named it that in a moment to close out the podcast, but just things like keeping your head calm, acknowledge it, acknowledge that you misplayed, and just be like, I have to be better, I'm going to do better, and just a lot of times you're not going to miss that again for a long time, but like it's going to become second nature to where then you won't miss something, and it helps polish your gameplay for future tournaments, right? So that's my 2 cents. It's just you're always gonna just keep a level head when you know you fucked up.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so Sebastian and I, obviously we've been talking for a while about doing this podcast, and if you've made it to this point,
Thank
you
you.
guys are the real ones.
You are.
So we've been thinking for a while about what to name the podcast, and Missing Triggers was obviously the one we chose. There is if you guys check the avatar or like the profile picture of this YouTube channel, or any of our stuff, you'll see the picture I'm talking about. I actually have it as a printed sticker in my car because it's so funny. On our first ProQuest, we were just shooting the shit. The best part about traveling to events or like these slightly smaller events is you get to spend a lot of time with your friends being
Yeah,
in the
in the
car.
car, just hanging out.
Exactly. And you shoot the shit, you watch videos, you laugh, you giggle, and one of the things came up was, this is a bigger event, and there's a lot of stipulations on the line. You're getting points for ProQuest or Pro Tour. If you win, you get money, or not money, but like you get higher end stuff. You can win some stuff out of it, and profit quite a bit. And at the same time,
And
you work
I
to
do
get
want
into
to
the Pro
say,
Tour. Go ahead.
on this day you were particularly in a, down. There was a time when you were grinding this last season where you were just like overall like worried about making it and everything, which is like understandable. But I remember on this car ride, you were a little down.
I
So
was I was asleep. I was trying to sleep because I didn't get much sleep the day before too, and a whole bunch of stuff. And that's where like not even a team comes into effect, but just having friends that you like that play the game that you play the game with is once you're friends for a while, a lot of times people know how to cheer you up. And Sebastian's the fucking prime example of that. This kid is fucking hilarious. And um I get a picture with a Snapchat filter of a fucking big old forehead. And we were talking about not letting people take back stuff because there's quite a bit of stuff on the line. And and the caption said, "Oh no, I forgot my tunic trigger." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'm never letting somebody take that back, especially when it matters." And that was
and
just, oh god.
by the way, we're not shitting on anyone who does this, but there's just a moment when someone misses their tunic trigger. They go, "Darn, I forgot my tunic trigger," and then they look at you with this look.
Like
It's
they
the
want
look
to
of
ask you.
they want to ask to take it back, or they're feeling you out to see if you'll let them take it back, but they're not going to directly ask you. And we always and we tell people our locals, and they're like, "Hey, that's me. Don't make fun of me. Fuck you." And it's like, no. We're not making like I forget that shit too.
Yeah, we do. Like it's
And
just it's a part of it, you know.
so don't not calling you out, but we're just like it is a funny moment where at a higher level event, and there's something on the line like a couple $1,000 gold foil, a pro tour invite, prizing cash if it's at a 1K, and they look at you and they're like, "Can I take this back?" And you're like, "I would let you if we were playing for fun, playing locally. There's nothing on the line, but right
But
now I
motherfucker, you ain't
can't."
taking that shit back.
Exactly.
But when you sent me that, I started crying. I was laughing so hard. And
And if you want to go a step further of being nice to people about it, what I did during Briar format, whether it be at CC or you know, in draft and stuff, if they would forget their embodiment or something like that, or their tunic trigger, because this was a big deal back then, I'd be like, "I'm gonna let you take it back this one time, but I just want to let you know if you miss it again, I can't let you take it back." And that seemed to be the best response from people because, they don't feel like you're an asshole. They understand what you're saying, that there is a lot of stuff on the line, and they thank you for letting them take it back. Then they miss it again. You just gotta, do what you said and say, "No, I'm sorry, you can't take that back." That's the best way to go about it, I found out.
For sure, for sure. And that's kind of why we named the podcast that, because it's more of an inside joke between Sebastian and myself, and Nam and
The
Alex.
shrine that you have at work.
Oh yeah, at work we have that same exact picture, and it's on the wall. So it's funny stuff. So um this has been episode 1. I know we've talked for quite a bit, and Sebastian and I have that chemistry. We can just shoot the shit and just talk. And that's what we're gonna do a lot of times. Is just sit down and talk, and have a good time. It's not necessarily gonna be all about flesh and blood. We're just gonna talk about life experiences and other stuff, and just overall just having a good time. And I had
I
a
know
good
we
time
got a
our
little.
first time.
Oh yeah, I just want to say sorry if we got a little bit off topic or it wasn't structured as well. This is my first time really being on any kind of video format where I've had to talk for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously with time we'll both improve. I know we didn't even get into the Pro Tour stuff, so I guess that's episode 2, right?
Yeah. We'll more than likely have like a Pro Tour recap.
Yeah.
Or if we want to do some makeshift one like Thursday night and then upload it for Friday morning or something. We'll try to figure something out. And so to close this off, something I'm going to say at the end of every single podcast, because I truly believe in this, and and I think a lot of you smelly motherfuckers need to hear this for yourself. Um, uh, wash yourself. Don't forget to brush your teeth, wash those pits, and wipe your ass, because you smell, and I don't want other people smelling your smell, and I definitely don't want to smell your smell either. So, take that for what you will. If you got offended by that, then you're a part of the problem. And if you need some coupons for Kroger or anywhere to get you some soap, let me know. I can help you find some coupons. But yeah, I had fun on our first episode. We're an hour and some change into this, and I think this is going to be a fun thing that you and I do as like a side project that hopefully blooms into something where people love to listen to us, because I love to listen to us. So
And obviously, as it keeps on going, we'll get into more things that, like, if you are the competitive Flesh and Blood player, we'll like to hear. Like, we'll share our thoughts on the specific meta and getting into decks and things like that. This was just a more like introductory episode talking about us, experiences, callings, things like that.
it's been a year, dude. It's been a year since
Yeah.
we've really started to really play the game, and I think a lot of our experiences with this will help a lot of other people, and so hopefully a lot of everyone, learn to think or two, learn something about us as well,
Yeah.
as individuals. And if you guys are going to be in Pro Tour New Jersey or the Call of New Jersey or in New Jersey in general, please come up and say hey to us. We
Oh
love to
yeah.
meet. We love to meet people. That's one of my favorite things is people coming up just to say hey, want to take a picture possibly. Um, that's what it's all about, is the connection with the community. So with that, then we'll go ahead and sign off. I'll say it one more time so you guys know. Don't forget to brush your teeth, wash those pits, and wipe your ass. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right. See you guys later.
Do man.